Knocked away, Marshall, Clark, to the rim. An 11-0 Iowa run. As one of the arena cameramen got hit there after the bucket, and the officials stopped play.
Right here, this is Caitlin Clark all on her own, jumping out to double team. She sensed that she could get the steals, that she could create some havoc, and she did, and got the layup the other way. Let's go.
Gabby Marshall approves.
This is Joseph Newgarden. Joseph was conceived to win races. Stopped drinking milk at 2, picked it back up at 32. Good for strong bones. Tell that to his clavicle. Joseph's like an action hero who wins even when he loses. This is his wife, his Tuesdays, his hand-eye coordination. He might have the greatest jawline in sports.
He's not that handsome.
He even wrote a children's book about winning. America loved it. Joseph loves the smell of unleaded gasoline. He hates imperfection. He doesn't believe in magic, but on Sundays, Joseph flies. This is Joseph Newgarden. Welcome to the fastest racing on earth.
Some people look at Sonny Hayes. They see a guy who lives in a van, a gambling junkie who missed his shot, the best that never was. But I see possibility.
And if you don't love me now, we'll never.
My rook is a phenomenal talent, but he's young.
Never break the chain.
You plus him, boom, I got a team.
I can still.
When was the last time you won a race?
Sunday, Daytona.
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant Formula One.
Oh, I'm sorry. Then same as you.
There's this new guy. He's old. He's such a prick. He's quick though.
If you had any constructive criticism for each other, what would it be?
Don't be such an awesome dickhead. That was constructive.
Wow.
Did you win something? There's 20 other drivers still out on that track. Do you think any of them respect us?
They're saying Sonny Hayes isn't a has-been. He's a never was.
If the last thing I do is drive that car, I will take that life, man. 1,000 times.
I'm offering you an open seat in Formula One. The only place you could say, if you win, you are the absolute best in the world.
Never break the chain.
This is Alex Pillow, a conquistador of concrete from the start. Alex grew up practicing kissing girlfriends to be ready for the day he'd meet bricks. Alex is so fast he does his taxes January 1st. He speed reads 2 novels before noon. He's Spanish, but he'll French kiss on the first date. Racing's what he thinks about in awkward silences. Racing's what he thinks about when people aren't talking about racing. Racing's why he's a grown man haunted by milk. Alex has traveled the world. Here are his favorite places: Portland, Detroit, Monterey, Portland again, and rent-free in 32 drivers' heads. This is the front of his car, but if you race him, you'll just see the back. This is 3-time IndyCar champ Alex Pillow. Welcome to the fastest racing on earth. This is Pato O'Ward. His last name's Irish, but his first words were... Pato's the fastest 25-year-old on 4 wheels. He's can't miss TV for everyone but his own mother, and he's tasted every kind of victory except for the lactose variety. Pato looks like a one-man boy band. He charms like a British spy. He smells like burnt rubber. And he doesn't have fans. He's got groupies. So take a look at the next face of IndyCar, because whether you love him or love him, he's about to turn this whole sport upside down. This is Pato O'Ward. Welcome to the fastest racing on Earth.
Third career start. Hugs his wife. Josh, you are now a Cup Series winner. How does that sound?
Oh man, I don't even know what to think. Just awesome. I love this track. Las Vegas has been so good to me. I've had so many great moments here. Just struggled in the next gen car here, but man, Miles and this whole 21 team, everybody at Wood Brothers Racing, they gave me a great car today, and we just battled and battled and battled, and man, it was our day. I just can't believe it. Such a battle with Daniel there at the end, beating and banging at a mile and a half. It's crazy, but whoever was going to get out front was probably going to win, and we were able to get it from him.
Josh, you joined the Wood Brothers in the offseason. This is just your 5th race together. What does it mean to you to drive for this legendary team, and now to get them back to victory lane?
I mean, it's just incredible. They've just been so good to me. It's just been a great relationship, and obviously thank everybody at Wood Brothers Racing, but Team Penske as well. They've welcomed me with open arms and tried to help me and accelerate this learning process as much as I can. And I really can't say enough for Miles Stanley, man. Everybody, he is so good at what he's doing, and we have a great thing going on together. He really believes in me, and just got to thank everybody at Motorcraft, Quick Lane, Dex Imaging, Aero, Ford. I know they're going to be excited about that one, and man, we're just gonna enjoy this moment.
Go celebrate it with your team. I know they're ready. Josh Berry wins at Las Vegas.
Drivers, start your
fans, welcome to Drafting the Circuits, brought to you by Sinister One Productions. My name is Frank Santorowski. I'll be your host for the next hour as we talk about this past weekend racing and preview next week. Joining me tonight, Levi, Richard Uden. What's up, fellas?
How's it going?
What's up? What's up?
Oh, you're up. I thought you were taking a little nap there.
Nope, I'm alive.
All right. Quick thank you to our sponsors. Luis Torres Multimedia, IndyCar on Fox, the Formula One movie starring Brad Pitt that's in theaters June 27th, Warner Brothers film. That's a brand new trailer we put up tonight. So if you didn't catch that, you can find that out there in the internet world. So let's lead off with some sad news in the world of racing. I woke up this morning getting ready to type up topics for the show and pulled up the latest news, and I saw that Eddie Jordan had passed away. Eddie Jordan was a Formula One team owner from 1991 to 2005. After selling off his team, still remained very active, very vocal in the sport. Interesting cat, flamboyant guy, and creator of one of the most beautiful Formula One cars to this day. The Jordan 191, their debut car in F1, absolutely beautiful. Keith, you've got a photo of that you can share? The 7-Up car. All right, so that's an absolutely stunning car. But Eddie Jordan, one of the privateers out there. One of my favorite Eddie Jordan stories involves during his Formula 3000 days, he was trying to hustle up some sponsorship. He'd been talking with Camel, the tobacco company, and they turned him down. But he went and stole Camel decals from another competitor's garage, put them on the car. Johnny Herbert goes down and wins the race, ends up with a picture of the car with the Camel logos on the cover of a magazine, takes that magazine, walks back into the Camel offices and says, "Look what you're missing out on." So, so they ended up sponsoring his car, and I mean, it worked. And then when he joined Formula One, he debuted the car, it's just a plain black livery. I wasn't sure what he was going to do still for sponsorship, so he painted the car green and blue, and then he said, "Let me find some sponsors that use these colors." Goes to Pepsi, say, "Look, this 7-Up color." He talks them into I think they only gave him like $2 million because they had actually committed a boatload of money to sponsoring of all things Michael Jackson's tour. And then he goes to Fuji Film's colors are green and blue, and, talks them into it. But Eddie Jordan will always be known for being the first guy to put Michael Schumacher in the Formula One car. And as the story goes, and Richard, I don't know if you remember this or not, if you're too young, they started the season with the driver was Bertrand Gachot. Gachot gets into a little dust up with a cab driver, ends up assaulting the cab driver, sprays him with mace, or something like that. Ends up having to spend 2 months. Ends up having to spend 2 months in jail. So, early in the season, Eddie's without a driver. So he's looking for a pay driver, and Michael Schumacher's working with the Mercedes sports car team, and they give him $150,000 to go ahead and run Michael in the car. And he's a little apprehensive, doesn't know much about Schumacher. Schumacher, well, have you ever been to Spa? Schumacher says, "Oh, yeah, I've been to Spa." Leaves out the fact that he's been to Spa as a spectator, not a competitor. So Schumacher kind of lied a little bit there. One con man out conning the other, but they put Schumacher in the car. The dude qualifies fourth, catches the attention of everyone in the paddock. His race doesn't go quite as well. He has some mechanical issues with the car. But then by the next Grand Prix, Michael Schumacher is signed to Benetton, and the rest is history. So, I mean, then after that, Eddie Jordan's team was around for a while, won some races. They ran Damon Hill for a while. They had the famous Buzzing Hornets livery for a while, which I thought was really interesting. Their sponsor was Benson and Hedges. And in those days, certain countries, notably Great Britain and Germany, had banned tobacco advertising before the rest of the world did. So you could run your cigarette logos in most of the races, but for those couple of races, you had to come up with something a little more creative. And, Marlboro used to use look like a barcode in substitution of the word Marlboro, but Benson and Hedges, they just changed it to say Buzzing Hornets. And the car was
another one as well. What was the other one that did? Bitten and Hisses. They had a
Bitten
snake.
and Hisses, yeah. Had a snake, yeah. And
snake
Hornets,
on the nose.
Looked like a wasp. It was done in black and yellow. So, really interesting cat that it is. And then again, he stayed very vocal, but lost his battle with cancer recently. I believe he was in his mid-70s.
76, yeah.
76, yeah. So, Richard, what are some of your thoughts on Eddie Jordan and his contributions to the sport?
He was a sort of a maverick in a way. He was one of the last, as you mentioned earlier, truly privateer guys. As you said, he came up through the ranks as a not just a team principal, but a team owner. It's all his own money. He actually worked when he was running the Formula 3000 team. He actually worked in a bank as well, so he knew his way around the financial markets, and he knew how to make a deal and how to, grease the palms of the right people, should we say? Which is what you need in Formula One. And it brought that sort of innocence to the sport a little bit, which we've lost recently. That true sort of cavalier style racing, put it all out there, put everything on the line, mortgage your house, beg, borrow, steal money to go racing every weekend. Unfortunately, obviously, last couple of years we lost Frank Williams as well, who was in a similar mode, and there was other guys, guys like Tom Walkinshaw with his Arrows team was of that ilk as well. And it's as I say, I really think of the innocence of the racing back then, or in that format, and we've lost that, for better or worse. And yeah, it's a real shame. And then of course he went into his TV career, if you like, post selling the team.
Post-team ownership,
yeah. And he did a lot of work with Sky F1 and Channel 4 in the UK. And I actually know somebody that was involved with some of the negotiations for the Sky contracts. I think it was. When it went, I'm trying to remember which way it went. I think it was when it went from the BBC showing it full time to Sky showing it full time. And Eddie Jordan was on the BBC crew, and he was, I don't know, he just didn't fit the mold for what. He was a little bit outspoken, said what he thought rather than what was meant to be said at times.
Typical Irishman.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, he put a few people's noses out of joint at times. And there was one story that he was basically, of the core group of BBC people, he was the one guy that wasn't being moved over to the Sky group. They didn't offer him a contract. But he didn't know that. And he heard on the grapevine that all of the BBC guys were going over to Sky, and on this day they were having a big meeting and a big, sort of the first kickoff for Sky's coverage of Formula One. And he's thinking,
I can only imagine where this is going.
They forgot to invite me. So he turns up. He said, no, you just forgot to invite me. When your name's not on the name's not on the list, you can't come in. It's like a nightclub bouncer. He's like, no, you just made a mistake. My name's supposed to be on the list. It was really awkward, apparently. But,
oh my!
How much truth there is in that story? I'm not 100% certain. There's probably a little bit of, fisherman's tales in there, but yeah, you can imagine it all too easily.
Absolutely, yeah. Eddie Jordan, true character. I've in talking with some friends this morning. Talking about privateers. We also, you had mentioned like Tom Walkinshaw and. But we had also and Frank Williams. We had also compared him to like Colin Chapman and Ken Cherry.
Yeah. So those guys.
Some of the privateers.
Yeah, the difference is though, Chapman and Tyrrell were engineers who built the teams, whereas Eddie and Frank, they were pure businessmen. They back in Chapman's days and Ken Tyrrell's days, who were probably slightly before Eddie Jordan, they didn't need to, know the art of the deal, if you like, for want of a better word. They would be successful by having a quick car or being a good designer or a good engineer. You know, Eddie came
Absolutely,
along
yeah.
when you needed to have that, you know, gift
Business
of the,
savvy,
you know,
yeah.
yeah, you know, you could talk anybody into giving you money, and he certainly did that. Very, as you said, the prime example being the Camel sponsorship. You know,
Yeah.
you know, that's what it takes at times to get to get it done.
Well, I mean, you know, despite not being a finance guy, more of an engineer, Chapman was the first guy to bring a non-automotive sponsor into the sport.
Yeah, indeed, with John Player. So sorry, I know we're getting off track.
Gold Leaf, yeah, Gold Leaf Lotus,
Yeah.
yeah. So
yeah, so I'm getting off track, but in 2006, I think it was, I broke my leg in when I was living back in England, and I ended up getting on the ward where I was having the operation to put my leg back together, basically. And one of the guys on the ward was in his 90s at the time, but he was the chief. He'd worked for John Player, and he was the negotiator that got the deal done with Lotus back in the 70s or 60s, whenever it was. Fascinating guy.
Yeah, fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah, he broke his hip at 90 and drove himself to the hospital.
Golly. Oh, man. So, Eddie Jordan, 1948 to 2025. Our thoughts go out to his friends and family and folks that he's influenced. You know, staple of racing, you know, gone but not forgotten. All right. So let's, since we're talking about Formula One team owners, let's talk about the Formula One season opener in Australia, Albert Park. Rainy day, sloppy start. We saw two of our rookies. I think Hadjar crashed on the formation lap. James Doohan out on turn 5 of lap 1. Lap 2, Carlos Sainz is out in the Williams.
Under the safety car.
Under the safety car, yep. So I just showed you how slick that track was. But at the end of the day, it was Lando Norris, who started from pole, led the bulk of the race. There were a few exchanges there with when the second round of rain came through, and we had some folks opt to stay on dries and or you know switch tires later, shuffled up a little bit, but you know Lando eventually prevailed and won the race. So Richard, talk us through Australia.
Oh my gosh! I mean, the race is 2 hours. I think it would take us 2 hours to cover it in detail, really, wouldn't it?
I know there's so much going on.
Yeah, it was great. You know, a little bit of rain there really spiced things up, but it was you know, it was a typically sort of fascinating race. Obviously, a lot of rookies in there, as you mentioned. Mixed fortunes for some of them. You know, Kimi Antonelli had a great race. Bortoletto, or you know, but I'm never going to pronounce the names. He looked pretty good for Audi Sauber kick, whatever they're called these days.
Right, until he hit the wall, right?
Well, yeah, but you know,
yeah, he had a good run. He
had a good run. You know, Behrman crashed twice in practice, or he crashed once in practice and then had another technical issue. And yeah, some of the rookies weren't great. I did feel sorry for easy for you to say, for Hadjar.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, crashing out on the formation lap there. I mean, that's, and you know, even Martin Brundle on the commentary was saying that, you know, there's nothing he could do. It just was one of those things, you know, it happens to all. You saw it happen to Carlos Sainz not 10 minutes later.
Yeah,
and you know, obviously,
then of course that was a really widely spread news story after the fact. You know, Hadjar is walking back to the pits and he's got his helmet on, but you could just tell by his body.
Oh, he's devastated.
That he's sobbing.
Yeah.
You know? And he walks into Anthony Hamilton, father of Lewis Hamilton, who gives the guy a nice embrace, pat on the back and a hug, and kind of, you know, says something in his ear, which I'm sure he says, "Hey man, all your days won't be bad like this," something like that. So you know, I'll offer the man a little bit of compassion and comfort.
Yeah.
Whereas Helmut Marko said, well, I'd have
Oh,
fired that guy.
don't even. Helmut Marko's comments were disgusting, and I think Helmut Marko is starting to prove how out of touch he is with the sport. And I'm not one to criticize people, but he's like the old senile uncle at the the family gathering. You're just waiting for him. You're waiting for him to say something racist or something. Like, oh my god, no. Somebody please shut him up. And it's getting that way. It's like everything that comes out of his mouth is just garbage, and it's giving Red Bull a bad name as far as I'm concerned. Here's a kid who's there is no doubt that Hadjar is obviously a talented driver. You cannot get to that level of the sport without having talent and success. And so for him to turn around and say what he did, who do you think? Do you think he turned around and criticised Mika Häkkinen when he span out in the Italian Grand Prix in '99, was it? And was, sat on the side of the track, in the same emotional state? Of course he didn't. I've got no time for those sort of comments with these young kids. We can't baby them. They've got to step up and they've got to do what you need to do. But primarily, it's the team principal's job. Racing Bulls or whatever they are now, and I know Helmut Marko is heavily involved in that, but he should not be doing that in the public eye. That is not going to do the kid any good. And just no, sorry, that's absolutely disgraceful. But yeah, outside of that, McLaren's looked very, very quick, probably quicker than the pace that they showed in the rain. Obviously, the rain's a bit of a leveler, so it didn't give them the opportunity to show their true potential, I don't think, especially in race pace. Pre-season testing, their race pace was very impressive. And I think they could, dominate races going forward. And George Russell has said, well, McLaren can start concentrating on the 2026 car because they've got the championship wrapped up already. And, usual sort of verbiage like that, which, gets the media headlines and everything. But, outside of that, Alex Albon had a great race.
He did.
Bringing the car home in fifth, got promoted to fourth after a penalty for Antonelli. Then Antonelli had the penalty rescinded, so dropped back down to fifth. But still a great result for the Williams team. You saw that in qualifying, both cars in the top 10 at Australia for the first time since like 2011 or something.
Now,
earlier.
Did you see the evidently the Antonelli was given the penalty for an unsafe release, and then they rescinded it after looking at footage from his roll hoop cam. Did you get a chance to see that footage at all? I
haven't. No, I must admit. I'll be honest. I haven't seen it. So.
I don't know if they've made it public or not. But whatever they saw in that footage exonerated him, and he was. But excellent debut for Antonelli, though.
Oh yeah, I mean he struggled in qualifying, and to struggle in qualifying, and I think qualified P18 or 16 or something, back in the pack, and to bring it home in the top 5 was a very, very good result. And ironically, it was the same starting position and finishing position as Hamilton's final race for Mercedes back in Abu Dhabi at the end of last year. So yeah. And talking about Mr. Hamilton, well, wow, what a baptism of fire that was for him. Ferrari have always, for the last few years anyway, especially, they've joked a little bit about their, communication between the pit wall and the driver and some of the strategy decisions they've made. But oh my gosh, it was like a comedy of errors. I don't know if I can find quickly the conversation between Leclerc and his race engineer on the pit wall. About there's something wet in the bottom of the car in the seat, and his race engineer says that'll be the water, and it's like, oh my god, it just looked. Oh, it was just. You just think that again, Ferrari have so much potential, is, and then they do tend to, you looked at it when you saw it last year with Leclerc and Sainz at the times about, what race strategy they're going on to. And, they kept telling Hamilton which button to press. And he's like, well, I don't have that button. And then they turned around after the race and said, oh, yeah, he doesn't have that button in his steering wheel. It's like, oh, God, And, it's not great. And, yeah, it was a little amateur hour-ish.
And despite all that, Hamilton ended up leading a few laps towards the end there by staying out on his slick tires a little longer. So,
yeah. Okay, so here we go. These are the comments. So, Leclerc said, "Is there a leak?" And his engineer said, "A leak of what?" Leclerc responded, "I have a seat full of water, like full of water." His engineer said, "That must be the water." And Leclerc turned around and said, "Let's add that to the words of wisdom." So it's like, oh my gosh, But we're off to China this weekend. Fully back there in the swing of being in China after missing that for a number of years. I think we were there last year, but back there again this weekend. So it'll be interesting to see, what if we've got a dry race where it gives you a bit more of a view of the pecking order. But yeah, you'd probably you'd expect to see the McLarens up there at the front again, battling it out for the front row of the grid and the race win between the two.
Yeah, we've got a lot of guys that feel like they've got something to show this year that they weren't able to showcase in Australia. Sainz and Hadjar and even Liam Lawson had a pretty
well, Lawson's
miserable debut.
Was out in Q1, crashed in the race, was lapped, I think, at one point. It wasn't great. And again,
no, he's
give it 5 or 6, give it 5 or 6 races, and if he's not performing, he's going to be under a huge amount of pressure. And anybody got Checo's phone number, sort of thing.
No, he's picking up right where Checo left off.
Well, yeah, and maybe that tells you, more about Red Bull than it does the particular driver. And I'll go back to it. I firmly believe that they actually made the wrong decision in promoting Lawson to that drive over Tsunoda. I don't think Tsunoda had a great. Where did he qualify? Tsunoda qualified like 4th or 5th, right behind Verstappen.
Yeah,
so it's like, what more can he do? It's. Yeah, I do fear that Lawson will struggle, and I think that.
Well, we've seen Red Bull and Racing Bull swap drivers mid-season before.
There just seems to be this like anti-Tsunoda thing there. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's Helmut Marko. He vetoed it, but Honda, with their influence as the team at one point, put him in there. I don't know. It's
I don't know. Post World War II anti-Japan sentiment.
Well, it wouldn't be, yeah, exactly. What comment did we make about Helmut Marko earlier? Yeah, anything could. Oh my God, you wouldn't want him. No, let's not go there.
Yeah, drunk uncle. Yeah. So,
moving on.
Lee, did you get a chance to watch the Formula One race?
I did not, unfortunately.
Okay, so all right,
Richard.
Well, that's a good segue to our NASCAR segment. Now, last week I had stated that I thought it was time for the Fords to win a race. I did pick Blaney, and Blaney, and for his part, had kind of a miserable day. Had a lousy pit stop early and tangled up in a wreck later on. But the Fords overall looked good. Cindric led some laps and Logano was up front. But it was this other guy in the Ford that Lee, you picked to win. That was a kind of a bold prediction. It's like, in all the years that we've been predicting stuff, I have like exactly one really wild, just pulled out of my ass, bold prediction that came true, and was back in 2017 or 2016 at the end of the season where my bold prediction was for next year. I said, oh, well, if Takuma Sato signed with Andretti, he'll win the Indy 500. And you know, that came true. But you picked Josh Berry, and sure enough, you look like a genius today.
I don't know how I did that, but
the race was in Vegas. I hope you put some money on it.
Yeah. Thanks, Josh. I appreciate the help.
You want to take us through the race a little bit, Lee?
So, I mean, it was, Vegas is like, I think you could get like 8 or 10 cars wide there. And it's a wide track. There's really like no out of bounds per se, other than the infield. So we saw a lot of side by side, that side draft racing. You know, not a whole lot of wrecks. We saw the one where Blaney got caught up in it. I think they were running like 5 wide, but it was. I mean, I don't want to say it was anticlimactic. It was for Josh Berry, but it was, to me, it just seemed like it was another run of the mill Las Vegas race. It, you know, not a lot of action. It just was Vegas. I mean, it's a good track. It's a lot of fun to go to, but I just felt it was, it was just another standard Vegas race. You know, and congrats to the Wood brothers. You know, I think the last time they had a driver in the...
Sorry.
I think like the last driver they had was him, Burton, Harrison Burton.
And before that, you got to go back to
Trevor
Trevor Bain.
Was it?
2011. And before that, you got to go like all the way back to the 2001.
Yeah, I think that wasn't that Sterling Marlin. Sterling Marlin was like their last one.
No. Casey Kane or
oh yeah, okay.
Somebody like that. But yeah, no, Trevor Bain. So, but this, I mean, you talk about
I pulled one out.
Harrison Burton got lucky. Trevor Bain got lucky. This Josh Berry, that was a legit win.
Mm-hmm.
You know, nice battle with Daniel Suarez in the closing laps, although he was able to kind of pull away and have a nice little comfortable lead there with about 10 to go. But interesting top 3. You figure, you know, you've got Berry, Daniel Suarez, and then Ryan Preece as your top 3. And that's not the usual cast of characters. As a matter of fact, I want to say Hendrick cars have won the last 5 or 6 Spring Vegas races. So really, you know, different cast of characters, which is always fun to see. It's always neat to see a guy win his first race, you know. And Barry himself was kind of really low key after the race. You know, he didn't smash the watermelon, didn't put a giant taco hat on. But yeah, I mean, great day.
He just kind of did his thing, and then right on the start finish line and got out, and it was it was no smoke. So
he's a pro. Act like he's done it a million times.
Right. Yeah.
That was with his 54th start, which is pretty in NASCAR world. That's pretty quick to the first win. Yeah. I mean, it's no third start like Kevin Harvick, but 54 starts. That's pretty quick to a first win. We've seen guys that have gone 100 or more starts before getting a win.
Yep. And I mean, the Wood brothers, they're just, it's one of those, they are definitely not Hendricks. They're not Gibbs Racing. They're, just your average everyday Joe race team that, really did pull it out.
That has an alliance with Roger Penske.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Conveniently. Yeah. Amazing how that happens.
And then the race, we saw some tire drama, I guess is the right term.
It was a little more than usual.
Yes.
I think we ended up getting 6 crew members suspended for the next race after this one. Yeah, we saw got Kyle Busch. Tire just came off, and then the tire came off the rim, sending 2 pieces of debris onto the track. And Christopher Bell I had to make an additional pit stop because he had a loose lug nut.
And he made
that
stop in one of his teammates' pit boxes.
Yeah, on the radio.
Big controversy.
They said stop in any stall.
That was controversial because they said, well, what's the ruling on that? Well, what I know from, and I don't know a whole bunch, but I guess teams had approached NASCAR officials and said, what happens if we do use another teammate's pits? What's going to happen? Are we going to, what's the penalty for that? And this was preseason, and NASCAR basically said it's just like pitting outside your own pit box. It's you got to go to the longest line, and that's that would have been the same thing if you lost a tire on pit road. It would have been end of the line. But if you lost it on the track, I mean that's
two guys stay at home for a week too.
Yeah,
get suspended. Yeah.
So I mean, I think it was a brilliant call to use that. You could hear him on the radio. Hey, get get in your teammate's pit box. Go go go. We got a loose lug nut, and we saw. I forget who it was. He had a left rear problem as well. Took off, and it just the tire calamity was strong in Vegas this weekend. So
yeah, and for the life of me, I don't know why that's kind of so hard for them to execute.
Yeah,
you would think switching from 5 lug nuts to 1 would make the job easier, but instead it seems to have complicated matters. And I don't know if that's I don't know if that's a design flaw with the equipment they use or what. Richard, what are your thoughts there, Mr. Engineer Man?
So you do have a slightly different mechanism. In the past, it was purely a nut onto a thread. Now, and you could get away with 3 lug nuts in reality. Now, they did clamp down on that, and towards the end of the Gen 6 cars, they did start saying, right, at the end of the race, mind you, only at the end of the race, you've got to have, all lug nuts tight on the car. For every other pit stop, you could get away with 3. If you were really pushing it, you'd go to 3. Most stops, you'd only put 4 on. And so, they weren't 100% all the time on that, for sure. But now with the single lug nut, which every other major racing series in the world uses, so there's no novelty here. It's just the locking mechanism. No, it's the locking mechanism of the pin. So the nut engages, doesn't just spin on and tighten. It actually engages as it enters, or the wheel has like dowels or castellations on the back, and that locks into the hub. And it's more that's not getting seated properly, which is meaning that when the nut goes on, there's locking pins which hold the nut in place, which when the nut's fully engaged, those are spring-loaded and kick out and hold themselves in place. When you put the gun on, the pins retract. So when if the tire's not on square or seated in its in the recess, I guess, then that's where the problem comes. It's not so much that the nut comes off, it's just that the tire's not seated properly, so the nut's not going all the way on. So it's a little bit of a misnomer when they say, oh, the tire wasn't or the nut came off. Well, yeah, the nut did come off, but it wasn't because of an issue with the nut. It came off because the tire wasn't seated square. So it's, if you point, they point fingers at the tire changers, but actually it's the guy carrying it's not the gun guy, it's the
tire carrier.
The tire carrier, for want of a better word. Yeah. Not to point blame or anything. That's a little bit unfair, but that's typically the way it works.
Okay. Interesting. So, Richard, what do you think about the race here in Vegas?
I thought it was good. As Lee said, a typical Vegas race. Some of those cautions that came out, I think, spoilt the weekend for a lot of teams. A lot of the bigger teams anyway, and that's the key to the sport, isn't it? The smaller teams, they take advantage of those sort of weekends and those races, and they pick up the pieces when they can get their hands on them, and that's exactly what Wood Brothers team did there. But yeah, no, it's Vegas. It's a unique track in many ways because you're just wide open. I don't think they lifted at any point, and that's not great racing really. It's not a restrictor plate race or whatever you want to call it. It's a conventional mile and a half, and you're just wide open. It never leads to great racing, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't horrible, but
it wasn't amazing.
I thought like Atlanta was a much better show. For my money.
Yeah.
So
by a long way, yeah.
Let's talk about the Wood Brothers for a second. Then one of the oldest and storied teams in NASCAR.
Yeah.
Been around for a while, but so back in 1965, when the aforementioned Colin Chapman was bringing cars over to the Indianapolis 500. Now in Formula One at the time, they weren't doing a lot with pit stops. So he really didn't have a crew that could, kind of refuel cars quickly. So he hired the Wood Brothers out of NASCAR to come and pit crew the car that was driven by Jim Clark, 1965 Indy 500. Historic win there, the first win by a rear-engine car. Putting a end to the roadster era at the Speedway. And brought the Wood Brothers in, and of course those quick refuels were a big part of Clark's win. Now with the throwback weekend at Darlington coming up, the Wood Brothers are paying homage to Jim Clark's Indy 500 car, the Lotus powered by Ford.
Yeah.
Yep. So Keith, you got that photo of the Josh Berry throwback car? Absolutely beautiful, British racing green, the classic Lotus colors before Colin Chapman came up with the idea of getting sponsors into Formula One. People had their national colors, and Lotus is British racing green. So great looking car. Both of them, both the Jim Clark Lotus and the Gen 7 Ford that we'll see Josh Berry running at Darlington. So other NASCAR news, they took Casey Mears out of mothballs. Going to put him back in a cup car. I think this is all an evil plot to keep Mike Wallace pissed off. Mike Wallace was denied entry to Daytona, and they told him because it's been more than 10 years since he'd raced. Despite the fact I think he's got 280 cup starts, or something like that. And then so Mike Wallace gets a little pissed that they let Helio Castroneves run the Daytona 500 without ever having, run a cup race. He gets a little more cheesed about Catherine Legg being allowed to do her first experience being in a cup car. Now, Casey Mears, who has been out for a number of years, they're letting him ride on in, and Mike Wallace is losing his damn mind. But
oh my gosh,
yeah,
all them Wallace guys are nuts, except for Rusty. Rusty's like the sane one. Mike Wallace is nuts. Kenny Wallace is bonkers nuts.
Kenny,
I don't know. I guess Rusty's the only normal one of the bunch. But it'd be interesting to see Casey back after 5 years out. So I'm not sure how that deal came about, but every now and again a guy will come back and have a good run. I remember not that long ago, Sam Hornish, who had been out of the sport for a couple of years. They brought him back for an Xfinity race and he won the thing. So, anything could happen. especially it's Martinsville, anything could happen. So, all right. So, any more NASCAR news this week?
Nothing major, I don't think.
Anything minor? I'm trying to
No,
fill the
not
time.
that. We were testing at Charlotte this week. We tested at Charlotte Tuesday, Wednesday. We had Chase Briscoe was there, William Byron and Ryan Blaney were there. Pretty uneventful, really, just a typical Goodyear tire test. So yeah, no, typical weekend, really. Yeah, no, good. That's about it on the NASCAR world. We're off to Homestead this weekend.
Homestead. You want to pick pick a winner for Homestead, Lee?
I'm gonna go. Let me see here. Kyle Larson.
Kyle Larson. He's overdue for a win. That's a good pick. Tough one. I will say I'll take Ryan Blaney again this week just for shits and giggles. So I almost was going to go just for Bell wins his fourth, but not in a row. So, but Bell's got as good a shot as anybody, though. So you got a number of other guys out there who are itching for a win who haven't hit victory lane yet this year because, we've only had 3 different winners in 5 races. So there's a lot of names yet to rise to the top. Your Logano and Larson, like you said.
Keselowski's long overdue for a W, I think.
I mean, he should have stayed at Penske, but but I understand the the long-term effects of being a team ownership since he's starting to get to the that over 40 thinking about what's the next phase of my career once I'm out of the cockpit. Mm-hmm. So we'll already have this lined up, and I mean, and it seems not terrible. They struggling a little bit this year, but recently they've had some wins between him and his teammate. So
yeah, I mean, they've been knocking on the door. They're building up. Doing the right things. They're investing in the right areas, and they're doing it the right way, I think. Yeah,
and they've got decent sponsorship in there. There's somebody on the car every week, whether it's Castrol or some of these other ones. So they're getting funding. They're getting eyes on the cars. So and Brad, he's been in the sport a long time.
Sorry, not again.
That darn cat. So
no, it's a different one this week. Go.
A different one. Okay. So how many cats do you have?
3. We had 2 on the show so far. So
you're gonna be next week. We get number 3.
You're gonna end up being a crazy cat lady when you're older.
Yeah. Don't tell JD Vance.
Don't put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby.
Don't
all right,
put it on. Yep.
Let's turn our attention to the world of IndyCar. So now announcement that we failed to mention last week. Takuma Sato will be back for another crack at the Indy 500 with the Rahal Letterman Lanigan team. Got sponsorship from Deloitte. So he'll be back in that car. If you recall, the last couple of years he's been with Rahal. He's been the fastest of he's been the only one of the Rahal cars that hasn't struggled. If you recall last year, Graham was in danger of being bumped, and the other, I think Catherine Legg was in one of their cars. She was just solidly towards the back, and Fittipaldi. Pietro Fittipaldi, but Sato's up on row 4. Then the year before that, of course, Graham did get bumped, and Sato's up near the front. So the man knows his way around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I mean, he's won the race twice. Came really close to winning it in 2012.
What team was it? 2012.
2012. Yeah, that's when him and Franchitti had a little dust up on the final lap. Yeah. But had he, I mean, if Takuma just would have waited till turn 3 to make the pass instead of in turn 2, he probably would have gotten away with it, and he'd be a 3-time winner now.
Yeah.
But you know, coulda, woulda, shoulda. The racing landscape is littered with those stories. You know.
Yeah.
Ask Scott Goodyear. So, but another news that I found interesting. So, one of the Rahal cars is going to be driven by Devil Di Francesco. They're going to have sponsorship from Livery. Now, these are the 3 ugliest cars I've ever seen in my life. And that's just
they are.
And that's just my personal taste. Keith, you got the picture? I mean, you know, I'll let you viewers decide. I think these are butt ugly, and the names are silly. You know, I don't mind you naming a car. I mean, you know, it harkens to the 60s when they named the cars. You know, you had like the Sugar Ripe Prune Special or the Genesee Beer Wagon. But this, what was the one called? Banana Boat? I mean, or Blaze?
Here's Frank how to make yourself sound like a boomer in 30 seconds. I don't like these cars. They're ugly. Yeah. Back in my day, you had real cars.
They're very Miami Vice like. Lots of
they're colorful.
Yes, very colorful. It reminds me of of Miami Beach and flamingos and Turbo Wave and so.
But anyway, so there you are. I mean, if you like those liveries, fine. Get on their website, vote.
Yep.
Pick one. He'll be driving one of those cars in the 500. Hopefully
Frank will be shaking his fist at it every time.
Yeah,
Frank will shake his fist at it every time he goes past.
Well, see, with Takuma in the lineup now, there's 34 entries. So means somebody's going to get bumped.
Yeah.
So maybe this could be the one. You know, I mean, I've seen uglier cars. I mean, I remember Scott Brayton used to drive this awful Buick with that was like a dark brown and light brown kind of combination. You know, it looked
UPS
like
colors.
Well, no, it was like milk chocolate and then coffee with a lot of cream. You know, the 2 shades of brown. So,
God.
Yeah, and I thought that just really kind of looked like a turd on wheels. Wrapper is brown, so that's okay. But yeah, brown is not your usual race car color. So anyway, you know, I think some of my favorite race car liveries are like black with green highlights. I think looks awesome. You know, that's one of my favorite ones. They're black and green.
Yep.
But anyway, so we are off to Thermal this weekend. We did preview Thermal last weekend and pick our winners because, like an idiot, I thought Thermal was last weekend. And this past week on Friday, I'm looking through my app here saying, well, when's the qualifying start? And so 7 days from now. So, all right, Lee.
We good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's up in the world of the NHRA, buddy?
We are off to the western desert of Arizona this weekend. Drivers and cars arrive today. Got double qualifying tomorrow and then double qualifying on Saturday, which I myself like to see that. I mentioned before, it used to be the one Friday night qualifying and then the 2 on Saturday. But I I do like that they're doing the afternoon Friday qualifying. It's back to the old days. That's how it used to be in the sport. We had 4 qualifyings and then eliminations on Sunday.
Yeah, who sounds like a boomer now?
This guy. I mean,
back to the old days.
I mean, this is pre-Flint. This is post Flintstone stuff. You know, we this is when we had brakes on cars and we didn't use our feet. So, yeah. So round 2 of the schedule. So, yeah, Arizona is always a good stop on the tour. I like that they do it kind of early in the season, so it's not so hot there.
Oh my God, we are like sounding like a group of old. It's not too hot, and you don't want it too hot, do you? Don't like it hot. Gets in your beard. Your beard gets all sweaty, doesn't it, in the heat?
But it's Arizona. It's a dry heat.
It is a
dry heat. That's right, dry heat.
Yeah. It's better than a wet heat, you know.
What, like Leclerc's car? Maybe that's the water.
I know that's it.
Why is the seat wet? It's the water. How much time do we got left? 6 minutes.
We've got
Great.
6 minutes to go. Yeah. So anyway, since you brought up the Flintstones, this has always bothered me. Okay, since we just got time to kill. Okay.
Yeah.
So take a look at Fred Flintstone's car. Right.
How does it turn?
Okay. Jump right to the punchline.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. My bad.
Yeah.
That was not.
But you just ruined my time killer. But yeah, anyway, so yeah.
No.
Yeah, look at the front tire. The front tire there. Cylinder with a stick through it, held on to 2 little hooks. Why the heck does the car have a steering wheel? That thing ain't steering, So
it looks like a big steamroller for roads,
Yeah, it does. Yeah, exactly. It looks like a steamroller.
Yeah.
Keith, have you got another podcast that you do for Look Up, please? We've like disseminated into just like Joe Rogan doesn't have to deal with this, does he? Well, you got enough of that's another story.
My cheeks hurt now.
Oh my gosh!
This one went off the rails early tonight. Oh boy.
Off the rails, it was never on it.
That's true too.
So I see Keith put up a message saying hello to Felicia and Lisa Anderson. They are not going to want any association with this show right now. They've probably left for us to say thank you to them. Thank you for enduring this. At least it's not just me that has to listen to it.
If they made it the whole hour, I will be definitely surprised.
Yeah.
So
I think you're being too hard on yourselves. It's been a pretty good show. We just a couple minutes shy, so we're killing time here. We don't need to be killing time with self-deprecating humor there.
No,
or
it's all good.
Calling our friends boomers. I mean, I'm Gen X all the way, baby. I'm telling you. Yeah. Richard, you damn millennial.
The Catherine Legg incident with.
Moving on.
Okay, now I was trying to fill at least 4 minutes with a.
No, go ahead, Catherine Legg. Go right ahead.
Right. So the drivers this week, how they felt about someone that has raced in the premiere of cars. It's really never raced in any of the any format of the car. And a lot of drivers like credit. Also, I think a lot of them were on the same page that frustrating to see that. I think I read, I don't know who said, I can't remember who said it, but if they wanted to go to F2, they would never be able to do it, even though they're a series champion in NASCAR. So why is it that putting unqualified drivers, but drivers who have never driven a NASCAR vehicle in the premier spot? Why aren't they put in, Xfinity series?
Xfinity or ARC
or even
trucks,
truck.
yeah.
Just because but Catherine did. She drove an ARCA race. So it was closed wheel, but still, an ARCA car is way different than a NASCAR car. And I think her ARCA race was a couple years ago. It wasn't even in, a Gen 6 era type thing. So, I did read quite a bit of the drivers. They weren't taking anything away from Catherine, but they raised concerns that, and now we got Casey Mears in this thing. And, when was the last time he had a license in
5 years, I think.
Yeah. I mean, so, is it a valid point that we need to have drivers at least get a little bit of experience other than practice and qualifying before they step into
NASCAR,
these vehicles?
the practice sessions are so short.
Yeah. They used to be hours.
For Catherine Legg was like, you got 45 minutes to learn this shit, girl. And she herself
don't get in anybody's way.
She said the feedback that she received prior to it, that people told her it drove like a GT car or an IMSA car, and she says, no, it doesn't. She said, it drives like nothing I've ever driven before. So she absolutely wasn't prepared for it at all. I
think she got sailed down the river with that one, I think, and it was a little bit unfortunate for her. I think you're right. I think NASCAR do have to look at how they manage this going forward. I don't think that fundamentally, I don't think Mike Wallace should have been given. I agree with that, not giving him the drive to Daytona. I think giving somewhere like Phoenix is better for a lesser experienced driver, but again, here's somebody who is, has very little experience, if any experience in these cars, and they're very, very competent driver. But you've got to remember that this is, these are people's careers and livelihoods here, and it didn't happen. But what if they'd wreck somebody who was in a championship position? What if they'd wreck somebody who's a contender for a championship or contender for stage points or playoff points, which come, how often do we see, so and so missed out on the playoffs by a point? Well, that point could have been because I know she span a couple of times, which caused cautions. Now, ifs and buts and whatever's, it can all play out that way. I just think that, and this isn't any negative towards her, I think she'd be the first to admit it was a very, very difficult weekend for her.
Absolutely.
I'm fundamentally, I'm not a big fan of drivers dipping in and out of the series like they do.
Yeah.
I think that it gets in the way of the full-time drivers. In the same way with the Indy 500. When you have guys
I was about to say, you got like Kyle Larson come over there, never been in IndyCar, jumps right into the Indy 500.
Yeah, but the Indy 5 leading up to the Indy 500.
There's a lot more practice.
Yeah, there's 100 days of practice, not 45 minutes.
No, there's not 100 days of practice.
I'm just saying, there's a lot more practice in the Indy 500 than there.
There's 7 practice days.
Again, I was exaggerating, but
yeah, there is a lot.
45 minutes.
Yeah, there is 7 full days. Plus, Larson did a test ahead of time as well. So yeah, it's a little bit.
And they have the rookie orientation as well. So
rookie orientation that you've got to pass that, or you're not going any farther. Yeah. So, all right. All right. So we have successfully killed the time. So I do want to remind
our viewing figures as well, I think.
Mark your calendars.
Oh my God.
April 9th, Jesse Iwuji will be on the program to talk about his new iRacing venture with Emmett Smith. April 9th, that's coming up in just a couple of weeks. Again, thanks to Warner Brothers Formula One movie, IndyCar on Fox, and Louise Torres Multimedia. Which, Louise, if you don't come back and join us soon, we're going to stop running your ad, okay? Although I kind of do giggle every time I see you get knocked to the ground in that clip. So, without further ado, thank you, Lee. Thank you, Richard. Thank you to our fine producer, Mr. Keith Hayes, and Sinister One Productions. Thanks to Facebook, Facebook Live, YouTube, Spotify, and TikTok. Mostly thank you to you folks that have tuned in Unless you've all left like Richard.
And endured this hour. Yeah.
Oh. Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks for watching Drafting the Circuits. Make sure to follow Drafting the Circuits on Facebook, Spotify, Twitter, and YouTube. Drafting the Circuits is a Sinister One production.